So Dean, it's Drew. Just wanted to, there's a question here in the chat box about, hello, have you extended the play tools out to kids younger than 12? I think they meant younger than 6. Or is there any discussion about assessment for 0 to 6?
The answer to that is the Play Fun tool certainly works well in grade 3 and above, as does Play Basic. We've done it down in grade 5, in age 5 as well, but it gets a little dicey to make the measurement in those settings. The K-Play tool is designed for ages 4 to 7 to fill in that gap. But I don't have any tools at this stage, nor does the Passport of Life tool or CAPL work on a measurement assessment down in the ages 0 from birth to 6. There certainly is an early childhood development scales that have been developed that are checklists to say, is your child meeting the motor development expectations up to ages 5? But those aren't physical literacy tools. Those are looking for deficits as opposed to looking for ability. And the play tools are designed to actually look at both deficits and ability at the same time. So the short answer is no validated tools. I mean, there are some tools that work down in that age, but they're not motor competence tools that look at ability in children.
So Dean, just maybe about the P-Play tool that's, that John is working on at McMaster, which will go down below K-Play a little bit, is in development, but as you say, is not validated yet, is still in development at this point.
John Kearney's work now at the University of Toronto, just left McMaster, is developing a tool which is in the early stages, but it looks very promising, and I'm very excited to see that, because then we'll have basically the continuum of measurement from very early ages to older adults. We're missing totally inclusive tools here. We need to have these tools adapted for various populations, and both with physical and mental impairments. Those are on the fly at this stage and in development, but it takes time to actually work those through. Any other questions?
Dean, there was a question from Kevin. He's wondering where you can find the reliability and/or validity publication on the play tools.
The validity studies were completed and are in submission at this stage. All of the data and results are available to people if they email me. I can give you the summaries, but those are just coming out. We're in early stages. Only elements of these tools have been, even any of the tools, have been published. Certainly none of the tools at this stage have looked at their entire validity or reliability components. Our test-retest reliability, just like any of the other motor assessment tools, is very, very good, because once you accept a standard schema to do assessment, you get reliability values in the 0.9, 0.95 range, which is like every other motor competence assessment tool that's been done to date. The inter-rater reliability is where you have like 2 assessors or 3 assessors assessing the same child at the same time. And again, if those people are trained, you get excellent reliability, just like every other motor development assessment tool. Concurrent validity is a weird one, because since there are no physical literacy assessment tools, what do you compare this to? And we compared this to the test of gross motor development, which is a tool to identify disability in children, not ability. And in grade 4 and 5, where the development is ongoing, the concurrent validity of the Play Fun tool is at about 0.82, which is very good concurrent validity. But what happens is that once you go above grade 5 or 6, the tools that are medical tools for assessing motor development have what's called a ceiling effect. So they can't judge ability past disability. And we all know that the lack of disability doesn't mean that they have equal ability. So those are ongoing right now, and we've got some that are coming out very shortly in terms of publication, but there'll be at least about 6 to 8 papers in the next year, slowly flowing out. But please email me if you have questions related to it.
Great, and some other questions here. Have you found that children get a lower score on the assessment from a pre to post program evaluation, even though the coach teacher has seen an improvement over the period of the program? What if during the test and assessment they do not perform the skill as well as they can?
Right. On an individual basis, I mean, what a great question. When you have research, when you're doing a research project, you come in there and you do your assessment, and just like any assessment, whether you're doing math or literacy, you can have a bad day. On an individual basis, you would know that. On a research basis, we don't know that, and that becomes noise in our data. On a program evaluation basis, you could actually understand that kid was having a bad day and redo the trial. Nobody does that in a research setting at this stage. But yes, on average, we've done 1, 2, 3 randomized controlled trials doing physical literacy interventions using these tools, and these tools are very capable of differentiating between quality physical literacy programming and regular programming. In fact, we've finished one study that's now in a master's thesis output, but not, it's just going for publication now, which shows that you can actually eliminate the gender gap using a quality physical literacy experience in physical education. And then you can show that that was eliminated by using the Play Fun tool. So, and also the children see it in themselves as well. So the beautiful stories coming out of this from using these tools is the ability to actually see are our programs working, and do children and or parents see it in themselves. One thing we did notice is that there tends to be an overcompensation by assessors like coaches, physical education teachers, generalist teachers teaching phys ed, of the ability of the child to perform movements when they actually don't do a formal assessment, because they actually don't do the measurements themselves in our studies. Research assistants do. So there is a concern that without assessment, you're actually overranking the ability of the child and therefore not identifying that they have a deficit in the expectations of the program.
Dean, does the tool assess spatial awareness and skills that use more upper body physical attributes that you see in gymnastics?
Yeah, what a good question. We picked 18 different movement skills that are curricularly linked. Certainly you can use this tool with any other movement that you want to insert on that 100 millimeter 4-point rubric. Feel free to do so. It works very, very well. The spatial awareness component is there because if you do, we don't just do looking at locomotor form. Do your arms reciprocal to your legs? That's a criteria-based rubric. We actually say run, turn around, and come back. So that actually says you can judge their ability to accelerate, decelerate, turn at a spatial point on the line, and come back and stop at the line. So you're not just assessing basic elements of movement, you're assessing function and form at the same time. But it doesn't do it all perfectly, and we do need ultimately a scale like play asymmetry that looks at some of the spatial awareness components, but it is built into a number of the tasks. Run a square is running around 4 pylons, and that certainly does provide you with an assessment of the spatial awareness of the child as well. So it's not perfect, but it's definitely in there.
And while still manually evaluating competency of the movement, is there value in a complementary timing aspects to the movement, for instance, running?
Yeah, so we dissociate, we do not include fitness as a measure of physical literacy in our scientific evaluation of physical literacy. It's an outcome. So I'll say quickly, if a child's motor competence is the primary component of physical literacy, there's more because there's psychological elements. If you're competent in multiple movements, you'll choose to participate. If you participate, you get mental and physical fitness only through that. So we see it as an output of physical literacy rather than part of it. Now, once you're over the age of 12 and testosterone is kicked in, all of a sudden then movement speed becomes an unfair comparison. Movement competence becomes a fair comparison. You can still judge the running form at any age and function of that person, but you don't judge the speed. I do think that speed measurements are useful, and we've done that in a number of studies, but it becomes an unfair comparison unless you have normative standards between boys and girls after puberty. So you just have to be aware of that limitation, because even at age 16, girls' kicking competence and boys' kicking competence should be identical. How far they can kick a ball may be different based on muscle mass, and that's the difference. So the Play Fun tool assesses competence, not how far you kick the ball.
Great, and we've got a few questions here about that look like they're geared toward teachers and trainers. One was, how can someone incorporate this literacy into a cultural or art program?
Well, certainly we've had across the country numerous applications of the Play tools in physical education settings where phys ed specialist teachers are using them for both formative assessments as well as for summative assessments with great success. So I think we've had coaches actually apply them to their teams to do an assessment of the ability of the children pre and post. And there was a trial that we completed where a soccer team actually that used long-term athlete development principles and quality physical literacy experiences using the movement preparation guide actually were able to show that in a soccer setting you could actually achieve the curricular objectives in an extracurricular activity like soccer. So that you can use these tools to help you guide your programming, whether that's in recreation, physical education, or sport, or even early childhood education. So I think these having tools to measure things provides a level of accountability and awareness that helps us guide our programming to a better level.
We've got a couple of people asking about how they can get trained in the Play tools and deliver the evaluations themselves.
So what you can see here is that if you want to learn more about physical literacy, certainly go to physicalliteracy.ca. Physical literacy portal is play.physicalliteracy.ca. Certainly go to the Canadian Sport for Life website. But if you want to log in for a Sport for Life Play Tools workshop, you literally go to the Canadian Sport for Life community workshops, fill in an online form, and you can actually sign yourself up for a Play Tools workshop. We typically run them in about 4 hours. So almost all of the tools, except for Play Fun, are pretty self-explanatory. If you want to use them in a high-quality manner, which you always want to use a tool in a high-quality way, it is important for you to get trained, and there's lots of information online, but it's better to get it face-to-face for the Play Fun and the Play Basic tool. And you can fill in this form right here, and it's called the Physical Literacy 201 workshop for Play Tools, and it takes about 4 hours to get trained up on it. And it's a fun and interactive session, but it teaches you all the rubrics for the Play Tools for Play Fun and Play Basic.
Do you know, are there any school districts that have really embraced these tools, or others that have been less interested, perhaps?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was one of the original contributors to the Passport for Life program, which is the PHE Canada's formative assessment tool for physical literacy. And the Play tools are designed to go hand in hand with those. There have been some phys ed specialists that really enjoy using the Play tools in various conceptions in Saskatchewan, New Brunswick, British Columbia, Alberta, Manitoba, many places around the world, actually, in Holland and Finland and Sweden, numerous locations in the United States. So it hasn't caught on at the level we want it to. There's 22,000 schools in Canada. I would love to see some of these tools being used in all settings, because without measuring something, it becomes very difficult to know whether it's changing and what the status is. So I'm a very strong proponent and proud of Canada to have 3 physical literacy assessment tools and the world none. But the people who drop the tools are typically people who didn't get the adequate training in the Play Fun tool, because you do want to have adequate training in that in order to implement that tool. Otherwise you get noisy data, and that's not useful at all.
Dean, I just want to add as well that in British Columbia, We have a fairly substantial project going on with the West Vancouver School District where we're working with all grade 2s and their teachers over the next year, and play assessment using the Play Basic tool will be part of that delivery. And then there's a substantial, quite a large project going on through Via Sport and the College of the Rockies that actually is working with 6 school districts around the province of British Columbia, and they're using a modified version of Play Fun to assess students in who are receiving instruction through a physical literacy mentoring program throughout those 6 districts. So Play Tools is certainly landing in various settings where it can be the Play Fun and Play Basic tool in particular can really be used to help inform instruction based on the outcomes of the assessment, and it really does help people, empowers people to bring a higher quality to the delivery of their program.
In fact, the Ministry of Sport, Recreation, Tourism, I believe, Drew, has mandated the Play Tools assessment and program evaluation in Ontario for after-school programming. So there is some great traction using these tools, and certainly our research projects, of which we've finished, because I'm an interventionalist, I don't like just describing things. I like to say, how do we fix them? So we have very major funded research projects right now looking at how to intervene in and change our programming, both physical education, after-school programming, and sport settings. And those projects, we finished 3 now using these tools, showing that you can succeed in achieving curricular expectations, and you can see that the parents can see the changes and the child can see it themselves, and you can avert those terrible cycles that I showed you previously in the slides where you see dissociation of happiness from physical activity in young women. That's a tragedy in our society and needs to be remedied. In fact, we have a gender gap study funded by Trillium Foundation right now in Ontario to try to further explore how to close that gender gap.
Great, and Dean, we've got a couple questions about adaptation of the tools here. One is, Brittany notices that there's an emphasis on land-based activities. Is there a certain point where the aquatic environment comes in, or is that just not considered at this point?
That's a great question. Certainly aquatic literacy is a subcomponent of physical literacy, and I can tell you that I had a meeting 3 days ago discussing an aquatic literacy assessment tool, and it may very well be trialed this fall in Calgary, and the first ever aquatic literacy assessment tool. So we are also in the development with PICE of a wheelchair-based one. So if you're using wheelchair as a primary means of mobility, having a wheelchair-based one. And there's we've been working on with limited success with one for children and adults with cerebral palsy and autism. But things are coming along. Certainly we'll need an ice literacy tool and a snow literacy tool into the future, as well as an air literacy tool.
Great, and actually we had a question too about how the play tools can be adapted to disciplines like circus arts.
I don't know who's asking that question. Certainly, my job is at the National Circus School in Montreal is one of the key researchers there on training optimization, as well as at Cirque du Soleil. So I'm very aware of the physical literacy abilities of circus artists, and we are in the process of developing assessment tools. Now, I will say that in the circus world, they create novel movement vocabulary all the time. So we do have a fundamental movement competency assessment for almost all the disciplines of circus at the National Circus School in Montreal, where they do routine assessments. But we don't formally use the play tool approach because at this stage. But I am there every month and working on projects related to perhaps the most physically literate people on the face of the planet.
Great, and Dean, I've got one more for you here from Tracy. What is the potential to get professors to introduce play tools in their courses?
As you know, both Mount Royal University, or may not know, and Seneca College, and as well as the University of Saskatchewan, have courses on physical literacy, as I do at the University of Manitoba, where we teach the tools. Kinesiology programs from across the country have not, they're actually lagging behind on adoption of the physical literacy movement. But I have seen a number of professors in a number of programs in the United States and Canada teach the tools. I think it's early years in the development of physical literacy in our population, and I think we have Louise Humbert and I have a task to actually have all of the deans of kinesiology become aware of physical literacy at a much greater level by the end of this summer. And I hope that that will then trip many kinesiology programs to do what Mount Royal did and Seneca College did and adopt physical literacy programming and streams within their kinesiology programs. Any other questions?
We've got a few kind of specific questions that we can respond to by email, but I think for the sake of time, I just want to thank everybody for attending the webinar, but also sticking through the tough time there at the beginning. This recording and the slide deck will be made available. Once we have it ready, I will send an email out to everybody with that information, as well as with the links and some of the other information that Dean has touched on here at the end. I'd like to thank Dean very much for that. It's great stuff, very informative. Also, thanks to Drew Mitchell for stepping in there when we needed him to fill some space and provide some answers. So thanks to everyone again very much, and we will have another Learn to Play webinar coming up next month, and again, you will all be notified about that as well. So thanks again to everybody.